All right. We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome to the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass, everybody. Great to be here with you. I'm fired up about this show, this episode 73. In today's episode, we will be discussing 3 items. First, we're going to discuss a proven 5-step plan to motivate your team throughout the year. So it's not a one-off type of motivational strategy. It's a proven plan that you can continue to use year in and year out with all of your players. And then in part 2, we will discuss what we can learn from catching a Gary Sheffield home run ball. Stick with me on this one. I got a good message on this one. A Gary Sheffield home run ball, what we can learn from catching that ball. And in part 3 of this episode, we will discuss how an average sized player, just an average sized player, became the Southern California High School Player of the Year. Now, this was a little while ago, but what made him a great player makes great players today. And before we get into those 3 topics, I want to thank all of you coaches that are supporting the show, that are using the link in the show summary to support the show. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And if you haven't already, when you get the chance, go back, listen to last week's episode. We discussed a proven effective plan to best deal with an umpire's bad call. I feel really good about this plan that has been utilized with many different umpires, many different environments, and it works. It's very, very useful, and it gives you a plan, an approach to dealing with those bad calls that, whether we like it or not, it is part of the game. And in part 2 last week, we talked about what I think is the biggest needle mover when it comes to coaching up your players to win more games. Not the building them to be better people, which is for Little League and youth coaches and travel coaches, youth coaches is just massive. And high school coaches, it's massive. When you get to college and when you get to pro ball, definitely, that's a different animal. Those professional players are playing for a contract. It's money related. It's about wins. Youth baseball and even high school baseball, it's about developing better human beings. But that aside, when it comes to actually coaching our players to win more on the scoreboard, not the scoreboard of life, which I think is definitely number 1, but winning on the scoreboard, we talked about the biggest needle mover. I know pitching is right there, but we talked about this other one that I think is 1A in pitching command and throwing strikes and being competitive on the mound is 1B. And in part 3 last week, I quickly discussed my thoughts on the wristbands to give signs, giving signs through those wristbands that are becoming more and more popular in the game of baseball. Have been around for a long time with catchers, but are becoming more and more popular with the pitchers, base runners, batters, etc. So go back and listen to that if you haven't already. And now, part 1, a 5-step proven plan, a 5-step plan for motivating the team. Number 1, give genuine praise throughout practice and throughout the season. Give genuine, consistent praise throughout the season and throughout practice on a micro level. There's a lot of things we can do to motivate our team, but what are going to be the consistent biggest needle movers? I believe these 5 that I'm going to lay out today are the biggest needle movers, and for the most part are more than enough to have a team that plays hard, that hustles, that's motivated to go at practice and come game time. With that said, it is important to understand these steps are things that you as a coach, I as a coach, that we coaches can do. You can talk about better nutrition and sleep, but at the end of the day, unless it's your own child, your own kid, that's something that's out of your control for all intents and purposes. So what I'm laying out here are 5 steps that you and I as coaches can do consistently to motivate players, all types of players, year in, year out, and throughout that season. So number 1, give genuine, consistent praise throughout practice, throughout the season, during the games, after the games, genuine, consistent praise. Number 2, sell the why to your players. Sell the why to your players. How, whatever it is you're doing, how, fill in the blank, is going to help them and the team. How, whatever it is, fill in the blank, is going to help them and the team. So what is it you're doing? You have a throwing program. Hopefully Hopefully you do. A dynamic warm-up routine. Hopefully you do. A new drill that you're using for base running, hitting, pitching. Sell the why. Sell the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you doing this training? Here's a couple caveats or a couple things that are very important to understand when you're selling the why. First off, you need to be very good at selling what they're going to get out of it, what the team is going to get out of it. You got to connect the dot between what they're doing in practice and the result they're going to achieve in life and in the game on Saturday. You need to be very clear and concise when you connect it. Be clear and concise. So clearly and concisely connect the why, or I should say what they're doing, to the result that it's going to help them achieve. It's super important that us coaches clearly and concisely connect. So you have to think about this before you present it to the player. You have to have a message. You either need to be quick on your toes and articulate it very quickly and clearly. Now you can say why clearly and why concisely. One, concisely speaks for itself for the most part. Clearly speaks for itself. Like clearly, if it's not clear, it's vague, or it's it's going to lead to confusion, or the players are not going to get the message directly. They're not going to understand it clearly. But also concisely, because one, you get long-winded and then you just dilute your message. We've talked about that at length here. But number two, you don't want to oversell to players what you're trying to get them to buy into. You don't want to oversell it. Players will perceive this as a coach that is a little unsure of himself or herself, and you just don't want to sound like you're begging. You don't want to sound like you're unsure of yourself and you just want to be clear and concise and confident in what you believe in, whether you're 100% accurate or not. And what's important is that the team buys into what you're trying to teach them and work on it. Sell what you're going to do and what you're doing with that team, with those players right then, so they can buy into it. And there's that motivation to go out and do whatever it is they're going to do. This is why we do X, because it's going to lead to Y and Z result in the game. So tie it in so they know why they're working and busting their butt. All right, step 3, tip number 3, keep the action moving. Eliminate as much downtime as possible. Keep that practice, keep that pregame, keep it moving along. The drill should be as fast as you can make it, where it's still high quality and safe. The drill should be as fast as you can make it. Drill should optimize the amount of quality reps the player gets. It's not just about, hey, can I make a drill that gets a quality rep? Now it's about scaling those quality reps. You need to scale quality reps. You just have to be able to scale. If you want to be a really good coach, you have to learn how to scale. First, you have to learn how to develop a drill, and you can reach out to me, Coach Bo at 8020baseball.com, Coach Bo at 8020baseball.com. I'll email you my drill mastery guide. It's a 10-page PDF. It gives you the paradigm, the mindset to how to build it. Shows you the 8 steps, the 8 parts of a perfect or optimal drill. And that drill guide will show you exactly the steps to building an optimal drill. But you have to scale that drill. You have to scale that drill so it keeps it moving, but not just scale each drill or each training part component of the practice, but really the biggest thing that you can do right away is to eliminate downtime, reduce transition times, reduce how much you're talking to the team in terms of speeches, reduce downtime, eliminate as much wasted time as you can just standing around. So you have this wasted time or downtime or extra, there's just time that's being wasted within drills. That's a little harder to get to. That's a little more of that would be like the next step, the next level. And a lot of you are there. So go ahead and go for that. Some of you that are, a little newer, you may just want to focus on timing your transitions between drills, timing the water break. Make sure that they get enough time to get some water. Make sure they have enough time to go and get the equipment that they need for the next drill, the next part of practice, but don't give them any more than that. Don't give them downtime. Don't give them time to just sit around. Players come to practice to get action. They really do. They come to get action. They want to get as much action as they can, and by reducing the transitions between parts of the practice from one drill to the other, from one activity to the next, reducing that down, keeping the water breaks just long enough where they get hydrated, not extra, reduce where they have to go and get when they have to go get their equipment, make sure that's quick and efficient. And then within the drills, make those more efficient so the players get more quality reps, a greater amount of quality reps. Eliminate the standing around. That's big. Keep the players moving. Now you have to tie in the safety element with that, and you'll get better with that as you go. You start to look for things, some commonalities with safety issues, but keep the action moving. Keep the action moving. That's number 3. Number 4, competitions, especially getting competitions where your team is working together for a score or against the stopwatch, or a group of teammates that's working against a stopwatch or a score. I like the stopwatch because it adds pressure. Now you can do one-on-one and group-on-group competitions. Definitely. I mean, that's what sports are. Your team is competing against another team. When it comes to your team working together, I think the best competition, the optimal competition, is a competition where your team is working as one unit. Now, this is much harder to do, to design and to build. The next would be as small groups. So the teammates are still working together, but they've branched and broken into groups and they're working against each other. Worst case scenario, if you have to, you can go one-on-one competitions. I try to avoid those as best as possible. I'm definitely not against the group competitions because they need to learn how to compete against their teammates and be okay with losing and be cool with each other at the end. But I definitely think if you can get them working together as an entire team, the trick to that is efficiency. Going against a stopwatch is really a big one for me. Going against a stopwatch is big, but going against each other and competing against each other is also good. So competitions. Number 5, have a clearly established standard/rule for hustle and effort, and then enforce it, even when you don't want to, especially when you don't want to. So establish a clearly defined standard or rule for hustle and effort. What does it look like? What is not acceptable? When is it expected that they are hustling? What is the expectation? What is it going to look like out there? And then enforce it. So have a clearly established standard or rule for hustle and effort, and then enforce it, even when you don't want to, especially when you don't want to. So right there are the 5 steps for motivating a team, 5 steps that I'm recommending right here. Yes, there are other things you can do. You could bring out music and play music at practice. You could have a slip and slide at practice. You can do a lot of little things, and from time to time, that's super cool. But the 5 that I just laid out, genuine, consistent praise throughout the year, throughout the practice, throughout the season, selling your players on the why. Why are they doing what they're doing? How is this going to help them and the team? Clearly and concisely connect it. Number 3 was keep the action moving. Keep the action moving. Keep the players moving. They like action. They may act lazy, but they like action. That laziness will go away real quick when they're in the middle of a competition, which leads me to number 4, competition. Get as many competitions as you go. That drives up the energy level at practice. And 5, have a clearly established standard/rule for hustle and effort. Have a clearly established standard and enforce it. They are going to go as lazy as you allow them to go in a lot of cases. You're going to have some just really high motor, self-starters, self-energized players, but that's definitely not the majority. That's the minority. So you have to have a clearly established rule, and you have to lift up the bar artificially in a way by saying, this is what I expect. I expect you to go hard here. I expect you to always give it your best in the drills, and there's no lollygagging, or there's a consequence, and then enforce it. Another thing that just came to mind, a motivational strategy, is to not guarantee starting positions or guarantee or grandfather in players into their role on the team or whatever. Have it as a fresh start. They're earning their spot in the lineup each week. They're earning their spot on the field each week. And when I say spot on the field, I mean that spot on the field during the game, that starting role, that starting position. So there's definitely more than just the 5. I talked about the slip and slide. I talked about the music. I just mentioned right there. You can not promise or guarantee or have players just slotted into roles. They have to earn them. So there's definitely some others, but I think the biggest needle movers are the 5 main things we discussed here in part 1. Before part 2, I got a quote for you. The best way to coach up our players is not with a bunch of words, but by building a better practice and training environment. Build better, design better, organize better, talk less. So coaches, this is something that we should all tell ourselves when we're going out to the field, or even well before we go out to the field. Prep, organize, build, design, and run a high quality environment. That's the best way to coach up our players, not with a bunch of words. Talk doesn't move the needle very much. And in fact, in a lot of ways, it can actually be detrimental to your efforts as a coach to move the needle forward with your players, to move them in the right direction. Talk can backfire, but a high quality practice and training environment will be the best way to coach up our players. So I wanted to throw that little quote in that I put together a couple weeks ago. I wanted to throw that in here between part 1 and part 2. Now part 2. So the year was 2001, and this was May of 2001. And the Dodgers were playing the Marlins. At the time, they were the Florida Marlins. Now they're Miami. But anyways, they were the Marlins playing the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. And I went to the game with a college teammate of mine. He was a catcher, Todd Jennings. And Todd's a great guy. And I can't recall if we scored some tickets or if we went to the game and just bought the tickets. But nonetheless, we're at the game. We're out there in the left field pavilion. If you've ever been to Dodger Stadium, I highly recommend you sit out in the pavilion bleachers at least once. I'm not saying that those luxury suites aren't worth it or sitting right behind home plate. I mean, those are awesome too. Don't get me wrong. Those are legit. But that vibe out there in the left field and right field pavilion is pretty cool. Now, I'm definitely not saying it's Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium or Wrigley Field, but it is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool environment and it's pretty intense for LA. You know, it's pretty intense for LA, which is a pretty laid back city. And so there we were. Todd and I were out in the left field pavilion. AJ Burnett was pitching for the Marlins at the time, and he could bring some heat. He could throw the cheese at that time. He was really throwing it up there. And he was sitting, starting pitcher, he was sitting 95, 96, 94. He was throwing some pretty good cheese. And the score was 0-0. For the Dodgers was Kevin Brown. Now, at the time, Kevin Brown, I really liked watching Kevin Brown. I thought he was a bulldog. I loved his sinker. I was a sinker ball pitcher for most of my career. I liked him because he threw a sinker. He was a bulldog. I really liked Kevin Brown. I liked him as a pitcher. He's a Georgia boy. I just really liked him. I liked his presence on the mound. And so Kevin Brown was pitching against AJ Burnett. So it was a pretty good little matchup. Now, the Marlins at the time were just between world championships. So they weren't a bad team. In fact, they were just 2 years away from winning their second championship in 6 or 7 years. So they definitely had some fun players. So we're out in the pavilion. Kevin Brown had a no-hitter into like the 6th inning. I think it was a one-hitter. He throws a one-hitter, and the only hit was an infield chopper. The guy was Castillo. I'm drawing a blank on his first name. He was a leadoff hitter, well-known leadoff hitter at that time, and he hit a chopper infield base hit, I believe. And so it was a tight game, 0-0, and up steps Gary Sheffield. Now, anybody who grew up, most of you, a lot of you are my age, you're in your 40s, your 30s, 50s, you grew up, and Gary Sheffield was somebody we watched growing up. And that bat wiggle was something that you don't forget. In fact, I remember watching him back when I was in Little League because he had like a 23-year career. So he went all the way back into the 80s. And I remember watching him in Little League and mimicking him. Him and Julio Franco are the two guys I mimicked as a hitter. Not the guys who had the better swings probably, but these guys were two studs. But guys, I copied them because I thought their wiggle of the bat was super cool. So Gary Sheffield steps up. He wiggled that bat so cool. And AJ Burnett pipes a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, and he hits the crap out of it. This ball is a rocket, and it's coming right towards Todd and myself in the left field pavilion. Here's the thing, though. Here's what I want to share with you this. Todd is a catcher. Todd played high-level college baseball. He played professional baseball. He was really good, and he was a catcher. I'll tell you what, his mentality on this home run ball coming at us says everything. I played football. I played tight end. I mean, I didn't mind catching balls. I was fun. I liked action. I played basketball. I played sports growing up. But his anticipation or his response to this rocket of a home run coming right at us was different. He was, you better catch that. And he says that to me because the ball was just to our left and I was sitting on the left. And he goes, you better catch that. And I'm thinking, is that ball even going to get, I'm thinking, what are the chances? His eyes must have lit up. I was too busy watching the ball, but his eyes must have lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. He nudged me 2 seats over, and I end up just putting my hands up and catching the ball, and it just sticks. It didn't bobble, it just stuck. I caught the ball, and he's like all fired up, and I'm thinking, he's a catcher. He just saw the ball coming. He wanted that ball, and he was like, you better catch that. The ball was halfway to us. I mean, it was only probably off the bat for half a second, 3/4 of a second. I don't know, maybe a second at most, and he's already like, you better catch that. That was his mindset, catch the ball. And I'm thinking, is that ball even going to end up right? Yeah, it's coming at us. It's coming near us. Is it going to be 5 seats over or 3 rows in front of us? He's like, you better catch that ball. So not only was his eyesight phenomenal, Todd had this mindset catch that ball. And I still got that ball. In fact, it's right behind me. It's sitting behind me on the shelf in my great grandfather's baseball mitt. So that's pretty cool. And I think there's definitely something we can take out of this. When you put a catcher behind the plate, or when you choose a catcher for your team, coaches, we must make sure that we put somebody back there that maybe they're not the most skilled. Hopefully they are. Maybe they're not. We might put somebody back there who's not the biggest. Maybe they are big. Maybe they are strong. Maybe they're not the most physical. But you need to make sure you put somebody back there that wants to catch, that wants to be behind the plate, that wants to block the ball, that wants to get dirty, that wants to grind. That should be the number one factor when it comes to choosing who will be your catchers. I know you're going, well, coach, what about his arm strength? And hey, I'm telling you, you want a player. We want players behind the dish that are catcher mindset players. They have to have a catcher's mindset. And I don't think very many players have it. Maybe 25% of the players on your team are going to have it. Maybe 50%. Maybe you can cultivate it. I think you could probably cultivate it. I've seen it get cultivated. And sometimes it comes out when you move somebody behind the plate from another position. But if your catcher is not a hard nose, look at JT Realmuto. And I never say his last name right. Realmuto. JT, that dude is a tough cat. And if you look at the catchers that are any good at all across the board, they have one characteristic. Some of them had okay arms. Some of them have great arms. Some are good with framing. Some are okay with framing. Some are good at blocking. Some are great at blocking. Some are good at calling pitches. Some are great at calling pitches. Some aren't very good at calling pitches. But you know what they're all really good at, and most of them are great at? Their attitude behind the plate. They want to be catchers. They have a catcher's mindset. So when you put your catcher and when you pick your catchers, or if it's halfway through the season, you've already started the season, make sure that the person behind the plate, the player behind the plate, is somebody who's got that grit, who's tough, who wants the ball being fired at him, doesn't mind blocking, doesn't mind getting dirty, and doesn't mind being back there when the weather picks up and it gets hot. He's not complaining. Do not put a player behind the plate that's soft at all. Just if they're half like a cookie that's kind of semi-doughy in the middle, you don't want that behind the dish. Get yourself a tough, hard-nosed player back there, even if he's got the fifth best arm on the team. I'm telling you, you can work on some of these other things, but it's going to be really hard to cultivate a catcher's mindset during the season, much less over multiple seasons. So Todd Jennings, catch that ball, he says to me as the ball's still 200 feet away from us. And sure enough, I think with his motivation, it was like, hey, I had the physical ability to catch it. It was just like, hey, catch the ball. And he made it like matter of fact, like catch that ball. There's no other option. Catch that home run ball. It's good. Okay, catch the home run ball. That's how he thought. And that's the attitude you got to have from your catchers behind the dish, behind home plate. All right, part 3. Here's a quick hitter, part 3. Tommy Nicholson. For most of you, you don't have any idea who that is, and that's completely understandable. Now, Tommy Nicholson was the Southern California Player of the Year. The vast majority of Southern California the high schools play in the Southern section. And Tommy Nicholson was the Southern section, the California Southern section Division I Player of the Year in 1997. Now, this is a while back, but what we can learn from him is something that'll be with baseball for the rest of time. And I'm going to share with you 3 things that I think distinguish Tommy big time from all the other players. Now, I played with Tommy Nicholson in Little League. He was a couple years older than me, but he went on to Texas, University of Texas, had a good career at the University of Texas, played for Augie Garrido, the winningest college baseball coach of all time, a coach that most high school coaches, most college coaches looked up to. He was a mentor, somebody that everybody looked up to. In fact, I took a recruiting trip to the University of Texas and had a chance to meet with Coach Garrido out there. I met him actually preliminary in Southern California because that's where he was kind of located at the time, being the old Cal State Fullerton coach. But I went out there on a recruiting trip, met him, saw the team. Tommy Nicholson was actually my host. He hosted me on my recruiting trip. Obviously, I didn't decide to go to Texas. I really liked it, but just the distance from home. I mean, I was spoiled because I grew up in Southern California. So you really had the pick of the litter when it came to good college coaches and good college programs. I was surrounded. I mean, the junior colleges, the Division I, the NAI schools in Southern California at that time and still is second to none, I think, when you factor in like distance, proximity. There was in fact, I was reading an article by Ron Polk the other day, and Ron Polk was the Hall of Fame coach from Mississippi State. I believe he also coached at Georgia for a few years, like in 2000, 2001. But nonetheless, Ron Polk joked, he said in this article, he said he used to joke with Augie Garrido. He said, Augie Garrido, he goes, Augie, you can drive 30 minutes and see 30 prospects. I drive 30 minutes and I'm in Timbuktu, Mississippi with a population of 234. So needless to say, the density of prospects. So when Tommy Nicholson wins the CIF, the Southern Section California Player of the Year, that says a lot. Now, here's what made Tommy Nicholson so good. Here's why he went on to have a good career at Texas, and I believe even made it up to AA in professional baseball. Tommy was an average sized, he was a below average sized baseball player. He was a below average sized baseball player. So all of you coaches out there, what worked for him, it wasn't because of his size. He didn't play multiple sports. He didn't play any other sports in high school. He played baseball. He was a baseball player. I don't know how athletic. I'm sure he was pretty athletic on other sports. I never saw him play other sports, but he was a below average size player when it came to college, definitely, and professional baseball, definitely. But even in high school, he was average size, probably a little below average size in high school. He wasn't physical powerhouse. But here's the 3 things that really stood out to me that made Tommy Nicholson so great. Tommy swung at his pitch. And I started thinking about the hitting approach, talking with you all about the hitting approach. And I said, said, you know what? He swung at his pitch better than any high school player I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. And he always swung at his pitch with less than 2 strikes. He always swung at his pitch. His approach was so refined. And then the second thing that he did, he was into the launch angle before launch angle was even talked about. Definitely before it was cool, but even before it was talked about. He was launch angle way before. Now, Tommy Nicholson wasn't looking to hit pop-ups. He was looking to drive the baseball. And he was trying to drive the ball off the wall every time he swung at his pitch with less than 2 strikes. With less than 2 strikes, he was looking to drive the ball off the wall. He wasn't looking to try to put the ball in play. He wasn't looking to try to hit ground balls. He was looking to drive the baseball off the outfield fence. That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to get a little lift on it and drive a firm line drive with a little bit of launch angle. Not excessive, not a massive uppercut, but he was looking to drive the ball off that outfield fence. So he swung at his pitch and he looked to drive the ball. So when he did hit it, he was hitting doubles, he was hitting home runs, he was hitting triples, and he was definitely getting his singles because he was driving line drives into the outfield as well. So when you look at his swing, yeah, his hand-eye coordination was good, but his swing didn't stand out like, wow, that bat speed is out of this world, or man, he's physical. He's just got all this athletic talent. Man, he's a specimen. Average size player. Bat speed was above average. Nothing that we were like, wow, that's incredible bat speed. But he swung at his pitch and he looked to drive the ball. He looked to drive it into the gaps over the outfielders' heads. He was looking to drive the ball. And on defense, Tommy fielded all the routine ground balls. He fielded the routine ground balls. He made some good plays for sure. He was consistent. He put in the work, high quality reps, hitting, high quality reps, defense, fielding ground balls, and he was the Southern California High School Player of the Year, in my opinion, mainly for those 3 reasons. And he led his team to the Southern California Championship at Angel Stadium. And if I'm not mistaken, that team finished ranked number 3 or 4 in the country. Number 3, they were like a top 10 high school team in the country for all levels. And he was the best player on the team. All right, that wraps up episode 73. In part 1, we talked 5 proven steps to motivating your team, none of which were the rah-rah kind. In part 2, Todd Jennings, guy made it all the way to AAA with the Giants. Very successful career. He had a catcher's mindset. If it weren't for him, I don't know if I would have went after that ball, that home run ball, but I went after it because his catcher's mindset rubbed off on me literally as he pushed me into the ball and made me catch it. He had a catcher's mindset. Put the catchers behind the dish. Put your catchers back there that want to be back there, that like being back there, that have that grit and that desire to be behind the plate. And Tommy Nicholson, Southern California Player of the Year, average size player, very, very, very successful career. What made him successful? Swung at his pitches, never chased. And when he got his pitch, he looked to drive it into the outfield. He looked to drive it hard into the outfield. And he fielded all the routine ground balls. He got all the routine ground balls. He made the plays. He never panicked. He stayed calm and fluid and made those plays on defense. Next week, you don't want to miss next week. Next week, I'm going to share out a great training method to help your hitters, to help our hitters make better contact. I'm a big believer in this easy to implement drill and training method. So I'm going to share it out next week. This is something you can take out right away, work with your players on, your hitters on, and it will, I guarantee, will get your players better. How fast it gets them better depends on how much time you allocate to it, but it will get them better by doing this. All your hitters across the board. So next week, I'm going to share that out. You can follow me on Twitter. It's only baseball stuff. You can email me, coachbo@8020baseball.com. Email me for that drill mastery guide, the drill guide, the 8 steps to building great drills, perfect drills, optimal drills. And it'd be super great if you could support the podcast using that link in the show summary on your podcast platform. Until next week, everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, right? I know you're all doing this, but I think it's good just to reiterate it and make it at the forefront of our mindset. Take care of those families and take this information out there, win more games, and also, more importantly, make the baseball community, make your players better people, make it more fun, make it more enjoyable. And I guarantee you, yeah, you're going to win more games along the way. So take this information out there, put it into action. And remember, you have me in your corner. You have me you can reach out to if you need any support with anything, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye for now.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.